Welcome everybody to Royally Mad Sports Talk, and today I'm going to be going over the Auburn-Penn State game this Saturday night in Beaver Stadium. It's going to be a huge game between Penn State and Auburn. It's a 7:30 kickoff if you're on the East Coast, 6:30 kickoff Central Time if you're here in Alabama where I am. College game day is going to be there, so it's going to be a huge game. But before we get into that, we will be doing a show tomorrow night, Thursday night, about 7 o'clock. It's going to be a live show. I'm going to post a link down below in the description so you can click on that to join in on the conversation. We're going to have phone lines open. You can call in. It's going to be a real fun show, guys. So we look forward to seeing you there. And also make sure that you like this video and you share it with your family, friends, coworkers, preacher, teacher, everybody that likes college football so that we can really get this video out and share our love and passion with college football with y'all. Make sure you subscribe and you turn notifications on so you can be updated every time we open a new video. So let's get into this game. Auburn comes into this game ranked 22nd in the country. They're 2-0 right now. They're coming off a big blowout wins over Akron and Alabama State, both putting up over 60 points in those games. And as of now, Auburn's defense is ranked number 1 in the country in scoring defense and number 2 in the country in scoring offense. And now, I get that they played Akron and they played Alabama State, two teams who are just not that good. So Auburn hasn't really truly been tested yet. But nonetheless, putting up 60 points on both of those teams and pitching a blowout in one of them is not an easy task for any team. It doesn't matter who you're playing. It's going to be difficult in any game to pitch a blowout. So kudos to Auburn for that. They have played extremely well over the first two games, and their defense has been on point. Also, Bo Nix has looked really good over the past two games. Again, I know the level of competition has not been what you would consider competitive. But based off of the past 2 years with Bo Nix, their offense at least seems to look a lot better than what they did last year. So we're looking forward to that. And, we really don't know how good Auburn is going to be yet because they haven't really played anybody. This weekend is certainly going to be a test for the Tigers in Beaver Stadium. So we're excited to see how well Bo Nix does and how well Tate Bigsby and that offensive line can do, as well as Auburn's defense. They had a 6-5 season last year in 2020. Pretty disappointing season for Auburn, so they're definitely looking to improve that. They're looking to have a bounce-back year. We really won't know what Auburn's capable of until Saturday night around halftime, and we'll have a better idea and a better understanding of how good Auburn really is, or if they're just another average team that just put up massive points against weaker opponent. Penn State is also undefeated coming to this game at 2-0, ranked 10th in the country. They had a big win over Wisconsin week 1, and of course they beat Ball State 44-10 I think last week. So we do know a little bit more about Penn State than what we do know about Auburn. We know that they got a great quarterback with Sean Clifford. The passing game for Penn State has been very good. The upset win against Wisconsin week 1 was a huge game. However, there are a few things about that game that has been concerned about Penn State. They were held to 50 yards rushing the entire game. Wisconsin's defense shut that running game down, and Penn State just wasn't able to do much on the ground. They did put up 247 yards passing and a touchdown, however. So from that perspective, they looked pretty good. They also had a pretty underwhelming, disappointing season last year. They went 4-5. They lost their first 5 games of the season, but ended up coming back and winning the last 4. So Penn State's on a bit of a winning streak. They're looking to bounce back as well. So these two teams are actually kind of similar if you look at them. I mean, Sean Clifford and Bo Nix are both pretty similar in their stature and their build, the way they play. Right now, I would honestly have to give the edge quarterback-wise just a tad bit to Penn State because we've seen Sean Clifford in big games. We've seen Bo Nix in big games in the past, but we have not seen him this year with the new coaching staff that they have down there in Auburn with Brian Harsin and Mike Bobo calling the plays on offense. So it's going to be really interesting to see how well Bo Nix can handle this big game. He's been in big games in the past. His first year, his opening game, he came back and threw the game-winning touchdown against Oregon with a couple minutes left to go in the game. Of course, that game was being played in a neutral site. It was not played in Oregon or in Jordan-Hare Stadium. So Bo Nix keeping his composure is going to be huge. So let's talk about the keys to the game for Auburn. First of all, on the offense, they've got to cancel the noise. They've got to be able to block out the noise. If Bo Nix can go in there and not let the noise and the loudness of the stadium at Beaver Stadium affect him, he's going to have a really good game. If he can stay focused, not have very many penalties, particularly false starts, then I think Auburn's got a really good chance to win this game. If they can have 3 or less false start penalties in the game due to the noise, I think Auburn's going to win the football game. Simply because it's going to show that Bo Nix is not rattled, that he's not affected by the noise of that stadium, and that he is ready to go in there and play to his best ability. They also have to be able to establish the running game. Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter are two very good running backs. Tank Bigsby was a freshman All-American last year. All-SEC, not All-American, I'm sorry. He was a freshman All-SEC team last year. He's looking to improve that now. He's got over 200 yards rushing for the season, and he is a big-time running back for Auburn. In fact, I think if he goes in and he's impressive, puts over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns, he might just enter his name in the Heisman ballot this year. Just taking a long shot there, guys. I'm not saying that he's going to be the Heisman winner. I'm saying that if he can go in there and handle Penn State, and if he can go in there and show what he's capable of and not let that crowd bother him, he's going to have a really good game. Sean Shivers is injured, so we're not sure if he's going to be able to go come Saturday. We haven't heard the official word yet from Brian Harsin. He keeps saying that he is day-to-day, so he may or may not make that trip. If he doesn't, that's going to hurt Auburn a little bit because he's a great third-down back, and he's great at running people over. We saw that the first game of the season. He leveled a linebacker picking up a first down, and he kept going. So with Sean Shivers questionable, that could be a negative for Auburn. That could hurt them as far as their running game goes. But I've got enough confidence in Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter to say that with those two, if they go at it, they're at their best, Auburn's going to win the game. They've also got to keep their defense on their toes. If they go in there expecting to run the ball the entire time, then they won't have much success. They need to be able to spread the field by running play action passes and getting their receivers downfield to create more opportunities for that offense. So you can't go in there expecting to simply run the ball against Penn State if you want to win. You have to be able to pass the ball. Now, I'm not saying you go in there be a one-dimensional team and do nothing but pass, because if you do that, Penn State secondary is good enough, they'll shut you down. But if you can have a balanced attack between your rushing attack and your passing game, Auburn stands a chance. Defensively for Auburn, they've got to slow down that passing game of Sean Clifford. You know, like I said, he was 247 yards passing against Wisconsin. And Wisconsin and Auburn's defense, I'm not going to say one's better than the other, but they're both very respectable defenses. I do feel confident that Owen Papo and crew can pressure Sean Clifford and force some bad passes, maybe a couple picks to swing Auburn's way. You know, last week they had a pick six on defense. I don't think they had a scoop and score, but they had a blocked punt, a blocked field goal, and I think they all went back for touchdowns. So Auburn's got the special teams to do it too, but defensively, Auburn's got to pressure Sean Clifford if they want to be able to win this game. They also need to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage. I think Penn State's going to be able to run the ball. How effectively is still up in the air. We don't know. We don't know how good Auburn's defense really is based off of the talent that they've played. But I do think that Auburn's defense is good enough to stop that running game. Just like Wisconsin shut them down in week 1, I think Auburn will be able to shut them down in week 3. And another key, of course, is to put pressure on Sean Clifford. Be able to force bad throws, being able to go there and disrupt that passing game is going to be huge for Auburn. They need to be able to create turnovers. And they also need to bring up fourth downs for Penn State. I think Penn State's like 9 for 38 on third down conversions this year, so they're not that great. 9 for 26 on third down conversions. So if Auburn can keep creating third down situations for Penn State, the fact that they're not really able to convert on third down, that's going to be big for Auburn. So let's talk about Penn State. What are the keys to Penn State's offense that they need in order to beat Auburn? Well, first of all, they need to test Auburn's secondary early. Auburn has one of the best secondaries in all of college football this year, which is odd saying because in years past, it's been their front seven when Kevin Steele was there. But now they got a new defensive coordinator. They've got Derek Mason from Vanderbilt, who is calling the plays on defense now for Auburn. And that secondary, so out of 2 weeks, has looked really, really good. They need to create separation for their receivers, get open receivers, and get the ball downfield. If they can do that, if they can score a couple of touchdowns in the air and slow Auburn's rushing game down, Penn State's going to win the ball game. And as I talked about a few minutes ago, Penn State needs to be able to convert on third downs. They are only 9 for 26 on third down conversions this year at a whopping 34%. So Penn State has got to find a way to convert the ball on third down. And against this Auburn defense, if you're not able to convert, you're going to be in trouble because Auburn's defense is going to be aggressive. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be ready to play. I guarantee you that. So you've got to be able to convert third downs if you want to be able to beat Auburn and beat that defense. Defensively, Penn State needs to be able to stop the run. I talked about it a minute ago. Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter, two very good running backs who have been very impressive so far this year. Again, Auburn hasn't had competition so far going into the season. This will be Auburn's first big test with Penn State. Penn State, this is probably going to be the best defense Penn State has seen yet this year. I do think the Auburn's defense is better than Wisconsin's, but we will see on Saturday. They also need to be able to force Bo Nix to make some bad throws. If you've seen in previous years, Bo Nix is very rattled on the road. He doesn't have very good composure, and the last 2 years, he would scramble in and out of the pocket trying to find a receiver downfield, and a lot of times he would end up throwing a pick or he would run out of the pocket to try to scramble and make something happen. So if they can disrupt Bo Nix, Penn State's looking good. And, of course, they need to be able to make Auburn a one-dimensional team, meaning they stop their running game and force Auburn to throw the ball. Penn State's got the best chance to win by doing that because Auburn's rushing attack, I've touched on it several times in this video, and I'm going to touch on it again. Auburn's rushing attack is legit. You must be able to stop Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter. If you cannot do that, watch out for Auburn because they're going to hurt you. So let's talk a little bit about something. I've been watching videos, listening to the local radio here all week about this game, and somebody made the comment on a video, and I don't remember his name, and I'm not going to call him out even if I did just because I'm not that kind of person. But he said in his video that Penn State's going to win this ball game because they want it more. Let me tell you something. I can guarantee you there is no team in college football that shows up to a game with their mindset of, oh, we're coming here to lose. No, Auburn's coming to that ball game to win. It's like Penn State's going to that ball game to win. That's their mindset. If you have the wrong mindset going to the game that you're going to lose, it's a guarantee you're going to lose. You have to go in there with a mindset, we're going to win this ball game. So making comments like that is just completely asinine and, saying that your team wants it more, that's irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. And another thing, they're talking about the crowd in this game. Beaver Stadium's loud. Do you realize Auburn plays in the SEC? They have played in Tuscaloosa. But more importantly, Bo Nix has played in Tuscaloosa. He's played in Athens. He's played in Tiger Stadium in LSU in 2019 when they won the national championship and lost the game by 7 points. He's played in Florida. He's played in Kyle Field. He has played in some of the loudest stadiums in the entire country. I guarantee you that crowd noise will not be a factor for Bo Nix. If they lose a game, it's not because Bo Nix gets rattled by the crowd. It's because they made poor execution, bad decisions, and they weren't ready to play. But Auburn's going to be ready for this ballgame. I can guarantee that. Penn State, I hope you are. This game is going to reveal a lot about Auburn, though. We know a good bit about Penn State because, like I said, they played Wisconsin fairly well the first game, although Wisconsin turned the ball over 3 times in the red zone. Had that not happened, Penn State would not have won that game, and we would be talking about a different situation today. What we do know is Auburn has not played their best game yet. And I say that not saying that they're a bad team, but they haven't had to play their best game. They haven't had to pull out all stops to pull out a win against Alabama State or Akron. They went out there and played football and did what they were supposed to do, did what their coaches asked them to do, and they won the football game. That was expected. This weekend, you're going to see Auburn at their very best. And you're going to see Penn State at their very best. It's going to be a battle in the trenches for sure. One thing I can say, too, about this Auburn team that I've noticed this year over things that I've seen in the past is that Auburn looks more unified this year than they have in a very long time. They're walking out of the tunnel with all their arms locked, something they haven't done since Tommy Tuberville was there. And, doing that shows unity. And I heard a story earlier on a local talk show here where I live in Alabama, and they said that Halftime last week against Alabama State, Auburn was up 20-0. Now, I don't know how true this is. This is a rumor, as far as I know. But they said at halftime, Harsin went into the locker room and told all of his players and his coaches that they sucked. Basically, that, hey, you're playing like crap. You need to step it up. So that's something Auburn has been lacking in the past, was a coach who's going to treat them as players and not as their friend. He's going to get his very best out of you. And that's one thing Gus Malzahn did not do. Was he may have said that he wanted his players to play his very best, and every interview you saw him do, we're getting better, and the whole season they didn't. One thing about Harsin is when he says that he's going to get his team ready to play, you better believe they're going to be ready to play. Okay? This is a big game. This is not Auburn's first rodeo when it comes to big games on the road. They're going to be ready for that noise. And I guarantee you, the past 2 weeks, Auburn has been preparing for Penn State. I'm not saying that they overlooked Alabama State and Akron, but I can promise you in certain portions of their practice, they worked on some schemes strictly for Penn State. Because, I mean, let's face it, the last 2 games are practice games for Auburn. Then there are extra days of practice. So Auburn has the advantage there, and the fact that they haven't really played anybody, so they've had more time to fine-tune some things and really work on some things that they were struggling on. One thing they do need to work on this week is their penalties. Auburn had a lot of penalties the first half last week and a lot of drop passes. One thing I guarantee you that Harsin's done this week is he's made sure that they work on ball security, focusing on making the catch, and working on blocking out the noise and being able to listen to your play calls. And both teams in this game are extremely hungry. I mean, they both had very disappointing seasons last year. One of them actually lost their head coach because of the disappointment, and they brought in Brian Harsin. James Franklin is hungry because he had high expectations coming in when he got hired. In the past couple of years, they just haven't been that great. Now they look better. Penn State does look better. They're going to be a good team. It's going to be a good game. So I don't know. I'm excited to see how well these two teams do against each other. Penn State obviously has the advantage when it comes to the crowd and the noise, but you better believe Auburn's bringing a lot of people with them to that game. So, yeah, it may be the whiteout. It's going to be loud there. But, again, Auburn's going to be ready for that noise. I really don't think that Penn State realizes what they're dealing with here. And really a lot of people, most of us don't know what we're dealing with when it comes to this Auburn team because we haven't seen them compete against anyone. But I can guarantee you that they're going to be ready for this ball game. So if I had to pick right now, I think Auburn's going to be just fine in this ball game, whether they win or lose. But I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with how well Auburn plays Saturday. We'll see Saturday night and see if I'm right or not. But I'm taking Auburn in this game to beat Penn State on the road. And I want to go ahead and go on record and say this. If Auburn beats Penn State convincingly, meaning by 2 touchdowns or more, I think they're a top 10 team. And I think they'd be pushed into the top 10. Especially when you win in a hostile environment like a Beaver Stadium on the road. Auburn does that. They beat Penn State convincingly. They get pushed into the top 10, and then they go into LSU in 2 weeks. A huge favorite in that game. But if they don't, if Auburn slips up and they lose this game, then, people's going to say, okay, well, yeah, y'all overreacted. And maybe we did. I don't know. But I will say this. This game is going to define the rest of the season for Auburn. And what I mean by that is if Auburn loses this game, they're looking at a 6-6, 7-5 season. Based off the talent level that they still have to play, the hostile environments they have to play in. They have to go to Arkansas, who looks really good this year. They have to go to Texas A&M, who looks good. They haven't switched quarterbacks because of an injury, but they'll be ready to play by then. They got to go on the road to LSU, which is never easy. But this game is going to define that season. If Auburn beats Penn State on Saturday, then they're looking at a possible 9, very small chance 10-win season. And I say that because if they can get this huge road victory, they're going to have a huge amount of confidence going into their next few games. And I think they'll be undefeated going to the Georgia game if they win Saturday. So that's my take on the game, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like down below. Leave a comment. Also, go ahead and subscribe and turn those notifications on. so you can be alerted next time I upload a video. Thursday night, we'll be back with a live show of my co-host Thomas Royal. He'll be here with me, and we will be going over all this weekend's games, including Alabama and Florida. Of course, we're going to talk more about the Auburn Penn State game. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Those links are posted in the description down below, and we will see y'all in the next video.